Welcome to the Fit to Talk podcast.
You just found the #1 health and fitness podcast for performers, and you're listening to a guest episode during which we discuss the realities of a career in the performing arts with people who are fit to talk about them.
And if you like what we do, please leave us a review, or on Spotify, click that follow button.
Also, if you like our meaningful, helpful, and accurate information, then you may want to be coached by us. If so, then Fit to Perform might be for you.
Yeah, you can find out more information over on our Instagram or on our websites.
Yes, moving on. We have just an absolute barnstormer of a guest for you today.
What a wonderful guest. Absolutely wonderful guest with, quite frankly, a ridiculous CV. Just an astonishing CV. She's played Christine Daaé in not one show, but two separate shows. She was Christine Daaé in Phantom of the Opera and in Love Never Dies. She's also been in Les Mis, West Side Story, Cats, Titanic. She won an award for being in Titanic from Broadway World.
Yeah, as Best Leading Actress.
Yeah, like what a wonderful career. And yeah, just frankly, it's a lovely chat.
Yeah, playing all those roles that you know and love in all the shows that you already know and love. She's nothing short of a legend at this point. And yeah, please enjoy the suspiciously sensational Celia Graham. It's fit to talk. Can you do any magic?
No, I actually find it a bit weird.
Do you mean people that do it, or the whole pursuit?
Yeah, both. I think like magic itself, could be anything, right? It could be like a moment, it could be an expression, it could be something that you feel. But people that do magic, that do the tricks, I find that a bit sort of
strange.
I mean, no offense to the magic circle, I know that, but I just personally find it a bit weird,
It's a solo pursuit, isn't it? It feels like one of those things that you've had to spend like hours and hours and hours every day at home doing this thing.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that we all know deep down that there's a trick to it.
Yes.
And you're being sold it as one thing, but it's actually something else. And it's a bit like hypnotism when you see these people up on stage. I just find it sort of weirdly manipulative, and so I kind of just avoid it. Like I worked. There was this chap that I worked with. And he did magic, and somebody had said he was doing all of his tricks, and they were like, "Oh no, stay away from Celia. She doesn't like it." And he sort of made it his mission to come over and like convince me how great it was, and I kept going, yeah, I mean, I really appreciate what you're doing, but it's not for me.
I immediately know who that is.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's interesting that you said that it feels like there's a trick to it, because isn't that sort of what we do anyway? Like, we have to suspend your disbelief when you watch a show, but it would only bother you if somebody's telling you that it's like magic.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. I guess I think the magic that I'm referring to is when you can capture a moment that someone else can share. So you can, you can emote, and then all of a sudden they're kind of in the same world as you. So that's a magical feeling for me, as opposed to how many
being deceived.
How many cards am I holding up?
Also, I feel like actually, when I'm thinking about this now, when you watch a show, it's sort of for you. Whereas when it's a magic trick, they already know, and it feels like it's like you can't work this out. Maybe when it's like, we all know that you have tricked me in some way.
Yeah.
When you do this, but I have no idea how. How did that happen?
It's almost like there's an expectation from our perspective that we've got to really enjoy it. I also find the same anxiety when I've had to sit through or go to like a comedy show. You really want to enjoy it, and sometimes you do, and sometimes they're really, really funny. But also sometimes it might not be your humor, so you don't laugh. Yeah, and that's really uncomfortable.
Do you know what? When you actually go to a comedy show, I feel like it's the first time that happens, because you tend to like self-select the comedians you might watch nowadays. Yeah. Whereas when you go there and you go, oh, this is a completely different style of comedy to stuff that I might enjoy. And you're like, huh.
I always find it so stressful that you're going to get picked on in a comedy show, and you're like, I just came here to enjoy it.
Yeah,
I came here to sit back. Yeah, just don't sit nowhere near the aisles, nowhere near the front row. Just in the bang in the middle, and then they won't touch you.
It does depend on the comedian too, right?
It does. Yeah. I saw Billy Connolly live once.
No way.
Yeah, and it was like that was extraordinary, because we all literally like that sat back and just knew we were going to have the most amazing night. because he's like at the top of his game. There was no anxiety that he wasn't going to be funny or deliver. We could relax. Whereas a lot of the time, like at the Edinburgh Film Festival, you want to go in to support as many acts as you can, and a lot of them are comedy, and so you kind of go going, yeah, come on, I'm going to support you, but
yeah.
Sometimes it's just
you
not.
only have to read the best jokes in the Edinburgh Fringe that comes out afterwards to know
Yeah.
how successful that year was.
Sketchy year.
Like, in fact, I actually want to Google now what the most, because they vote for them, don't they?
Yeah.
I feel like some of your jokes could end up on that.
What,
list.
as worst?
No, at best. I think you could make it to best. I've got faith in you.
That might be the best compliment Bobby's ever given me.
Yeah.
Best
it won't
jokes.
last long.
Edinburgh Fringe. Sorry, we've really derailed this.
Yeah, straight to the Edinburgh Fringe. Fine.
Here we go.
Is it this one? This
Comedian Mark Simmons won with a joke that was, want to deliver it?
No, thanks.
Okay. I was going to sail around the globe in the world's smallest ship, but I bottled it.
It's actually quite good.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah,
we'll
that's
have
actually
that.
quite good.
Fine. Okay.
it.
Well, let's re-rail this then in that case and say, let's start off right at the beginning, which is, how does the story of your life begin?
Well,
It's awfully official, isn't it?
it is, isn't it? Well, I think I'm the youngest of 4, and I was born into a very musical family. My mum was a music teacher, my dad played the guitar, and my 3 older sisters played instruments. So, and my mum was also an MD for amateur dramatic clubs in Glasgow. So I literally was, when I was born, they were already in sort of showbiz, you know what I mean? So we grew up watching musicals on the telly. We went to see the Panto every year. That was a big thing for us. And when my mum was, she was the MD of the shows, but she also fixed the band and she would be the conductor. So when I was like sort of 3, 4, old enough to know what was happening, I used to sit on the podium with her when she'd be in the band, and I'd be looking up at these people on stage singing, and so I was just sort of like completely, in it from the word go. And so I did a lot of, some shows when I was a teenager with the Glasgow Schools Youth Theatre, which is like a big organisation in Glasgow that gets lots of different students from different schools all come together. And that's when I kind of discovered like-minded people. Because up until that point, I'd been at secondary school in Glasgow, a really big comprehensive school that was quite challenging.
Careful word selection there.
And I didn't fit in. I was a bit scary. I kept my head down. I didn't want anyone to sort of pick on me, and so didn't really have many friends in that sense. And then I met some friends that were kind of involved in theatre, and I started doing shows and then I remember watching every year the Royal Variety performance that used to be on in the summer or whatever. And that's when the sort of rise of the big musical came. Lloyd Webber had written Cats and Phantom, and Les Mis was on, and then Miss Saigon. And they would have this big section of musical theatre. And every year, that was kind of when I was in my sort of mid-teens, I would look forward to that section. And that's when I realised I could do this as an adult, like for a living. Because up until that point, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just being, a normal teenager with my head down, just sort of going to school and avoiding sports, that sort of thing. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I can sing and dance and I can do this. And some friends of mine that were a bit older had already moved to London and were training at Musical Theatre College. And I went, oh my God, that's what I'm going to do. So I had this light bulb moment of, I've got to go to London. And so that's what I did. I stayed on at school, I got my exams, and then I went to London and trained in musical theatre. I went to the Arts Educational Schools in London, and I stayed for 2 years. And at the end of my second year, I auditioned for West Side Story, which I wasn't supposed to do. It was against the rules, but I did it anyway. And I got the show, and so I left at the end of my second year.
How much did they tell you off?
Yeah, it was a whole thing. Because basically, by the time I got to my second year, I kind of realised the education system doesn't really work for me. Like, I really disliked being at school, and I thought it was because school was was different. Like I had to study subjects that I wasn't interested in, and I really wanted to be in theatre. So when I got into arts ed, I thought I'm going to be so happy, and I did love it. I loved learning, and I loved getting up every morning and putting on my ballet tights and doing jazz and having singing lessons. But the structure of it just didn't suit me. Like and I've never now as an adult I've realised I've never been very good at being told what to do. It doesn't really. I don't thrive in that kind of environment. So throughout my second year, I think I was starting to get a little bit bristly, and I think some of the teachers thought I was a bit too big for my boots, So I kind of came up against that sort of those boundaries, those perimeters, and. So I was probably not a great student in my second year. I was taking some time off, and when I shouldn't have been. and then this audition came along, and this friend of mine said he actually happened to be in a show in the West End talking to the MD who was auditioning for West Side Story, and he said, "Oh my God, you've got to see my friend," because they couldn't find anyone to play Maria, and so he put me forward for it, and I snuck off, and I had 3 auditions, and by the time I got to the final. The head of the course Art said, pulled me in on the Friday and said, "We know you've been taking time off. If you take one more day off, you're out." And I was like, okay, knowing I had the final on the Monday.
Like, well,
and it's
see you Tuesday.
Yeah, like
Gonna take that risk.
I mean, when you're young, you're just so brave. And it didn't even occur to me that I wasn't going to go. So I just took the day off on Monday, went to the audition. And then on the Tuesday, I sort of snuck into college. And on the Tuesday, I got a phone call offering me the job. Wow. So by the time that news circulated around the college, the head of the course came to my class and gave me a really big hug and said, "We expected nothing less."
Oh, see, this is so annoying. This is like that annoying
so I
thing
kind of got to let off.
That's so funny.
I can't stand this when people are like, they're like, see, we knew you'd do that. You're like, no, because 3 days ago...
You were going to chuck me out.
You were going to, you little bugger. And now suddenly this was your grand plan all along? No, I did it in spite of you.
Yeah, right.
But still, what an epic story.
Yeah.
That we're back there at that point. I'm really fascinated by the not liking being told what to do thing, because I think... naturally artists are renowned for being slightly rebellious, right? Like about sitting outside of the boundaries of normal society and trying to break things down. However, I think, the reality of the industry sometimes when you're then in a job is that it depends on the job, obviously, but sometimes you are then sort of constricted by these rules and, certain directors are slightly more domineering than others and therefore... So, how have you managed to sort of handle that when you're then on a job, or does it just not translate there?
I think when I was in Phantom of the Opera, there were very strict moments that we had to achieve. And Hal Prince used to call them postcard moments. So like picture postcards where the lighting is designed in such a way that you had to hold, for example, I'd have to hold the mask at a certain angle on a certain beat, a certain kind of music for the light to catch it, because that's the picture postcard moment. That's the storytelling moment of the relationship or what is about to happen. So there was freeze frame moments and you had to hit your mark. So within those perimeters, it seemed...
What on earth was that?
It's the Phantom of the Opera.
I feel like it's like topical stuff. There have been building works on this building for quite some time, but there have been...
That sounded like the building was coming down.
It's been silent for months, and now you've been interrupted by what may well be a phantom. Let's find out.
Let's assume it is.
Let's hope that's the only one.
So these moments, could feel restrictive, like, I've got to do this, I can't be free to do whatever. But I actually worked within those parameters really well because I found my own way of hitting the mark. Like, instead of feeling like restricted by it, I actually really enjoyed it because it gave me really clear guidelines as to what the purpose and the end goal was. And so I kind of learned, particularly on that job because I was in it for so long, consistency. And I think that consistency is a really underrated quality. People kind of, especially particularly in our industry, they really thrive on the exciting and the new and the change and the challenge, whereas doing the same thing every night for years on end can be tough. Mentally, physically, but you've got to try and find a way of being inspired by that, you know, the same routine.
I think that's the thing, right? When you're learning, or if you're at drama school and you've never done 8 shows a week for a year or whatever it might be, when you suddenly realize, oh, actually the repetition of this is actually maybe the hard bit. Most people could, you know, if you've got a certain level of talent, you could maybe sing that show once. What about the 64th time in a row when you're knackered and you've been rehearsing for 8 weeks, or you're rehearsing for another show and you've still got to rock up and do that thing? Like, and I don't think people, maybe it's not possible to understand that until you've attempted it.
Yeah, I think there's nothing that can prepare you for it. Even when you've been out of work for a while and you think you're going to the gym or you're doing some warm-ups and maybe doing class or whatever, there's nothing like doing 8 shows a week unless you're actually doing it. So it's something that you just sort of learn on the job.
The joys. God, I remember the first one I did, the first show I ever did was Joseph, and it was the Ken Wright tour that had like an insane number of shows a week. And I was like, oh, this is awful. This is the worst thing ever. And I was like, I wanted to do this my whole life. And I'm like, by week 2, I was like, I think I'm dying.
The reality of this is brutal.
Yeah, this is not.
Yeah, because then
healthy.
the adrenaline of the opening night and like tech and opening, and then people coming in, the reviews or whatever, that all wears off. And then the reality is, oh, I've got to do this again tomorrow. I've got to do this twice now, you know.
Yeah. And then people are worried about sounding ungrateful when you're like, God, I don't want to do this on a 2-show day, whatever it might be. And you've dreamed your whole life of being in that position, and yet you're still there going, I would rather do anything else than this. Just today.
Just for this one.
And then as soon as you start, it's mostly all right. But I want to jump back to the Von Trapp family that you mentioned at the start, which was essentially your life. What did your parents actually do for work then?
My mum was a music teacher.
That explains the conducting.
Yeah. And my dad was a headmaster. But my dad played the guitar. He was very musical. They were really into folk music, and we had a beautiful big grand piano in our house, and my mum used to play, and I would sing, and that was kind of my childhood.
Is there any correlation here between you not liking structured education and you being brought up by 2 teachers?
100%. When I was kind of going into, when I was getting my steam up and being like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and I've always considered myself really lucky because my parents were completely supportive. I think because they could tell that my mum said that from the minute I could like understand what was happening, I could knock out a rhythm, or I could move well, or, you know, I was interested, and she knew straight away that I had this ability. So they encouraged it rather than trying to make me go into more, other subjects. And I also, because I was the youngest of 4, by the time I came along, they were a bit tired. And they were just like, yeah. But they really supported me, 100%. But and I've never, you hear that expression of what's plan B. I've never had a plan B, ever. It didn't occur to me to have one. And I remember my mum saying to me at one stage, if you don't get into arts ed, we really should think about what else you're going to do, And even now, she's still, when I'm having moments of in and out of work, she'll go, you could go back, you could teach, you could be a teacher. And I'm like, no, 100%. No, it seemed to me at the time like the worst thing in the world. Like, there's absolutely no way I'm becoming a teacher. Which is kind of weird because now actually I do teach and I really enjoy it. But I sort of do it on my terms. I don't do it every day because I can't do anything else,
Yeah. I'm really fascinated. Obviously, you know me anyway, but I'm Welsh. And anyone who has grown up in either Scotland, Wales or Ireland and then ends up living in London, how do you feel about that? I know you now live outside in Oxfordshire, but how do you feel about having to be here? Or is that a positive thing? Or do you have an opinion about that?
Be in London as opposed to being in Scotland?
Yes.
I love it. I've always loved London. I love cities. I do love Glasgow, and I have moments. I do still have family that live up there, and I go up as much as I can. And I think, what would life be like if I moved home and if I moved back up there? But musical theatre is really the thing that drives me, that I'm in, and there isn't really much of a musical theatre scene up there. Like, there might be a tour that goes there. There are certain shows that might put on a musical, but really the musical theatre world is the West End in London. So that's kind of where I feel I should be.
It's not an option.
Yeah.
In that, I feel very similar. It's like, it would have been lovely to be able to stay there, but it was never a thing. So I never wanted it because...
Yeah, certainly when I was younger, because all I could see was musical theatre. Whereas now that I'm older and other things are opening up career-wise, Glasgow has a huge arts scene. It's really amazing and really there's lots of culture, lots of new things happening. So it's not out with the realms of possibility that I could spend some time up there in some form working on telly or doing a play or whatever, which I would love to do. But for musicals, definitely the West End of London is the place to be.
I mean, National Theatre Scotland, you'd be at home.
Yeah.
Let's give them a ring. We'll give them a call after this and we'll go from there. What was I going to say? I want to jump back then to that moment that you got your first job. You're going, because so many people come on and who have previously been part of like amateur dramatic societies. My partner is one, like her family are really all in on the amateur dramatic society around where they live. And so you then have sort of grown up in this place and then gone, I'm going to do this as a job. I'm going to try and make a career out of this. And then you get this moment that's like, is it validation? Like, what did you feel when you finally got that phone call, I'm assuming, to say? Yeah,
I can remember the phone call really clearly because I was at college and it was back in the day when I just got my first mobile phone. I think it might have been an Ericsson. Do you remember those?
Oh, God, yeah.
You're going, yeah, I'm definitely older than both of you. And it was like not that many people had them, but people were starting to have them. And so the ring would go off in class and the teachers would go nuts. They'd be like, what is that? Get it off. And not only was I kind of sneaking in on the back of being told off about taking time off college, I also had a mobile that with the ringer on. And I was in ballet and my phone went off. And my ballet teacher, luckily, he and I had a really good relationship, but he was like, whose phone is that? And I was like, it's mine. I was like, please, please, please let me take it. Because no one had a mobile. So no one else would be phoning me other than this company. Like I didn't even know my own number, So I got this phone call and he went, okay, off you go. And I ran out and I was in my ballet tights in the corridor. And it was the production company were phoning to offer me this. I actually got offered the understudy, Maria, and the role of Rosalia in the ensemble of West Side Story. And so we sort of talked a bit about what that would look like, how long the contract was, what the offer was, what the understudy meant. And I said, okay, of course, yes, straight away. Because I didn't have an agent. I was at college on my own. I had to sort of have that conversation on my own. And then I sort of put the phone down and I came back into the class and everyone in the class knew and they were all looking at me and I just sort of went, and nodded and they were like, and it was just, so that was really extraordinary. But then I remember after that going for lunch and just being like, what does this mean now? This is like a really big thing. So it was quite overwhelming. It took a while to sort of let it sink in.
Yeah. And a sort of lovely validation and also terrifying. They say, don't they, the only moment that an actor is happy is the moment they're told they got the job.
Yeah.
And then within a minute they start going, oh God, can I do it?
It's weird. I've never really looked at it as validation. I've just sort of felt like a sense of relief that I'm on the right track. When I auditioned for Phantom, it was my first audition. I mean, I'd been in like 8 times or whatever, but it was my sort of first time being in for them. And the Cameron McIntosh and Trevor Jackson, who was the casting director for Phantom at the time, had already been aware of me doing, because I took over as Maria in the West End, and then I went and played Cosette in Les Mis. So they were like, oh, a new soprano on the scene. I was very young. I was 21 when I started working. And so I kind of became aware. They became aware of me. I was on their radar, and I didn't know that. Obviously, you don't think about these things. So when the time was right, they got me in, and I auditioned for Fantine. I went through all the rounds, and I went in for my final, and I really messed it up. And it was in front of Cameron McIntosh and a team of his people. I was so nervous. And in Think of Me, there's a cadenza. There's a big stagey bit at the end where she has to sing those high notes. And I got to the top, and then stopped and went, oh, I've completely forgotten the rest. I'm really sorry. and I got the old, thanks, that's all we need for today.
Yeah. And you're like, no.
I turned around and I was like, "Ugh," and I came out and I was crying, and I was on the phone to I went and had some drinks with a friend, and I was crying, and I was like, I didn't think for a minute that I would get it, but I just didn't want to let myself down with all the work that I'd done. I thought, oh, come on, I could have done a better job than that, And my agent phoned me and she was like, darling, how did it go? And I said, it was terrible. And then she went, well, you must have done something right because they've offered you the job. And I couldn't believe it.
You're like, note to self, must mess up the cadenza.
It's important.
That was actually really interesting because moving forward for auditions, because it sort of allowed me to, to recognize you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be completely polished and perfect. They can get a really strong sense of who you are and what you can do. So if you make a mistake, it's all right.
Well, also, you acknowledged that you made a mistake, right? Like now, looking back on it, you'd go, oh, sorry, I messed that up. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you need me to do it again? Or maybe they can go, yeah, I can hear she could do that, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, looking back, it's obvious, but when you're in it, in that moment, and there's so much riding on it, it's so hard to see that.
Mm-hmm.
At least that had a positive outcome.
Yeah.
Rather than like, I'm not bringing her in again. So what happened between, straight after Maria then?
West Side Story lasted for a long time. So we did a year on tour and I was the cover and in the ensemble, which was amazing. I felt like it was the right move for me to be. I learned so much in that year, and I was one of the youngest members of the company, so I could look up to people that I was working with and learn from them. And then we moved into the West End for another year. And then this show moved from the Prince Edward to the Princess of Wales. And I took over as Maria for the last 6 months. So I had like a really long journey with that show. And I came out of West Side Story, and it was a bit weird because I was still very young and still had so much to learn, but I'd played a lead. So I was kind of in this weird place where everyone was going, oh no, you shouldn't go up for that. Oh no, you shouldn't consider this. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I'm like 23.
Yeah. Work as well.
What do I do? Yeah. And so I went up for Les Mis, and that's when I got offered understudy Cosette, and everyone was going, no, don't take it. And my agent said, you have to take this. You have to work for Cameron, and you have to get in with this sort of team, and it's the best thing. It was the best advice because I took it and I did. And from that moment on, that's when I was on their radar for Phantom, and so I just went from Les Mis into Phantom, and I was in that for a really long time.
So really, you went to drama school and then you went into one of the most well-known musicals of all time, West Side Story, and well-regarded, and then jumped to another of the most well-known and well-regarded musicals, and then straight into another. So when you're then going, you have played that lead in that role, and then you did you feel like you were sort of taking a step back when you were understudying then afterwards? Or?
It was difficult because Les Mis is such a different type of show from West Side Story. Yeah. West Side is. There's the costumes are so colourful and the dance numbers are so bright and energetic, and yes, there's an incredibly complex storyline, but it's a really vibrant production, and it's also not that long in length. And so you go into Les Mis, and I was in Les Mis when it was at the Palace, when it was still really, really long. And it was funny, you mentioned earlier about you should have these feelings because it's your dream role. I was conflicted in Les Mis because there were moments of just pure joy and fulfillment, and it's such a huge sing. So I really stretched my ability vocally, and I loved it, and all of those challenges were met. But then the downside of it is it's a lot of darkness to it, and also it's hard work, and everyone was exhausted, and we would have so many quick changes and costume changes, and we'd all have our own sort of plot backstage where you'd have all of your stuff, you'd run to it and you'd get changed and then you go back up. And one of my areas where I had to change was in the downstage crossover underneath the stage, that was the steps that lead you up to the fire escape to Shaftesbury Avenue, where all the homeless people would sleep. And they would like pee and stuff. And so the pee would sort of trickle down the stairs. And I'd be getting changed and I'd be like, oh my God, this place stinks. And, and when it's winter and you're freezing cold and it's smelly and the costumes are itchy and you're tired, it's like you have to go, I love my job. I love my job.
It's funny that people only say that when it's miserable. Yes. I love my job. Like everyone I know that's been in Les Mis seems to say the same thing, that the show is so, and this is the same of any kind of show, the show is so dark and so depressing, literally it's in the name, that you have to work quite hard to stay some kind of mentally healthy during that time period. Like, how did you manage to do that then, I guess?
Well, I think when I did the show when I was like 22, and I did a year, I kind of just got on with it and did it. I didn't question so much of it because I was so young, but I wasn't massively happy and I couldn't quite articulate why. And then just before lockdown in 2019, I was in the staged concert version of the show, the Gielgud, and that was a sort of Les Mis alumni cast that were brought together, and so I could revisit the show, and I recognised the moments in the show that are joyful are when you work together as a company, because for so long the roles that I played they're solo performances, or like with Phantom, the only person really that you spend most of your time with is the Phantom.
Yeah.
There are other scenes with the other characters, but backstage it's quite lonely. Where everyone else is on stage when you're not, and so you go into a show like that where it is a collaboration, and that's when you find the joy. You sort of go, oh yeah, I can really interact with other people, and so those big ensemble numbers are just so much fun. And I think, in a way, I did enjoy them when I was younger, but I sort of could appreciate it more.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've always found like the opposite as well. When you do a show like West Side Story, or like when we did Joseph and the Palladium, when it's so positive and high energy on stage, there's two ways to go. Is that it rolls over into your life and afterwards you're wired as hell, or you need to find a way to come back to some kind of balance. Now we know what we know about things like affirmations and the words you actually saying things out loud does affect your brain chemistry. Like saying "look down" over and over again for every day for the week. Like don't look them in the eye. Like you got to work pretty hard to protect your sanity doing that. So then you mentioned that it was Phantom afterwards. So how did that then happen? Were you still in Les Mis when you auditioned? Was there a gap? What happened then? Do you remember?
After Les Mis, I actually went back out on tour with West Side Story. So I did another contract of that, which I remember just feeling like the sun had come out, and it was just the way that it lined up. They were, as I was coming out of Les Mis, they were like, oh, they're good. West Side's going back out on tour. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yes, please.
Yes,
so I went, so I went and did that. And that was just, the joy came back. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Because I really was a bit confused at the end of Les Mis as to what it was that I wanted to do. Because my first experience of Les Mis wasn't really what I thought it was going to be. And so going back into West Side kind of really reaffirmed, okay, I'm good at this and I know what I want. And yeah, it lined up at the end of West Side Story, the tour. My agent put me into an audition for Phantom, and it was almost like immediate.
Wow.
Yeah. There was about a month or two where I was auditioning, but I knew it was coming, and then I got cast and I went straight in.
And then you're like,
amazing.
Cool, I'm just doing one of the biggest things in the...
Casual.
If not at the time, the biggest thing in the West End, probably.
Yeah, I think it was.
Well,
yeah.
Fair reflection.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so that is the role you get. You know that is a giant. And we've mentioned that you're doing 8 shows a week, Christmas time, maybe more. Like, how do you approach that going, oh my God, I need to be able to not only deliver that, because I'm sure, you'd back yourself talent-wise, but to stay vocally healthy and well during that run?
It was tough. You have to be really disciplined. And discipline isn't something that comes particularly easy to me. It's something that I have to really work at. But I remember going in when I was rehearsing, like I didn't drink at all, any alcohol, and I like drinking alcohol. So that was a big thing for me. I had to stop drinking alcohol. I had to stop going out. I was really conscious of how much sleep I would get. When you go out to bars or when you go out to places and you find that the music is loud, so you're talking a little bit louder. I couldn't do that because you'd wake up the next day and you'd have a sore throat.
Yeah.
So just things like that, you just have to be really careful. And I think I was a bit of a hermit for the majority of time that I was in. I lived in my own bubble. I'd go home, I'd go watch a movie or something, I'd get into bed and I'd sleep, I'd sleep a lot, drink a lot of water.
I feel like people have sort of almost forgotten that that's a requirement.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have the same perception, Bobby, or you, Celia, too, that it's like people have almost forgotten that is, you do need to do that in order to be able to deliver. Like, because we're not dealing with, like, if you think about athletes in a more sort of conventional sense, let's say with sports, like you're not dealing with people that are in like League Two. You're on about the absolute peak and pinnacle of what's physically and mentally possible to achieve within the realm of the arts in this. You're like, opera singers don't do 8 shows a week. Like, it's an insane ask to sing that many times. And you're like, yeah, the steps required for that are that the show becomes your life.
Yeah.
Like, you have to sacrifice your life.
There was a footballer talking recently about the schedule for football and how it's gotten too out of control and they're playing like twice a week. Yeah. And I was like, twice a week?
Yeah. For 90 minutes?
For 90 minutes. I was like, try 8 times a week. I don't think people understand necessarily the sacrifice that comes with playing a part like that and playing a part like that for such a long time. Like, yes, you're kind of at the pinnacle of this career that you've always wanted to do, but you are making such a massive trade-off in your personal life, in your social life. Like that, I think that gets kind of underrated in when people look at musical theatre as a whole. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and you're, as much as from the outside, people are like, yeah, but you're Christine. And sometimes you might go, yeah, but I'm playing this part. But at the same time, you're the one that still has to go and do it every day.
There are sacrifices. There are so many things I've missed out on, like family or friends' weddings or holidays or social occasions or even relationships. I mean, I think I was single for the majority of time that I was in that show because I just didn't have the opportunity or the will to go out and do, much. I mean, Saturday nights were always a bit wild because you go, I've got a day off.
Yeah.
And at the time, the West End was really fun. There was lots of places you could go where you could meet up with other.
Everyone goes break for the border.
Yeah.
Is freedom still a thing?
Not at that point. I don't think freedom was a thing.
Freedom wasn't open then.
It wasn't like break for the border was like the main.
Break for the border, yeah.
That was the main one.
Yeah, and teatros.
Yeah, teatros.
Spent a lot of time in teatros.
I mean, are there any now that people go to?
Now it's free. Now it is freedom.
Is it still freedom?
I think it is still freedom now.
Wow, that's done well. That's been a solid 15, 20 years for that.
Yeah, you can never catch me in freedom.
Jesus Christ. Not anymore. Not for me. So from that point then, I wanted to touch on some of the things that maybe happened while you were Christine in that sense. What's your best memory as Christine?
Having definitely some of the best memories are the relationships I had with the Phantoms, because I was really lucky. I had a good relationship. I worked with John Owen Jones, Earl Carpenter, and Ramin Karimloo, and we had so much fun. A different dynamic in different relationships, but all 3 of them are really great guys and a lot of fun. And so they're the memories that I hold.
Never heard of them.
No. Who are they?
John and I had a lot of fun because we worked for 2 years straight. And when I went in, he was playing the Phantom. So he was sort of my introduction to the show. And he's a big personality. So I was like, how am I going to navigate this? But we got on straight away. And we would sort of match each other with humor. And I have one memory where at the end of the first layer, there's a scene, there's a whole big scene. He sings Music of the Night and I'm in this white gown and it's all very romantic. And he, at the end of the scene, goes, "Come, we must return." And he grabs my arm and pulls me off stage. And in the theatre's now His Majesty's, it was Her Majesty's then, the stage level is on street level. So the pass door to the stage is just a couple of feet away from the stage door entrance. And he grabbed me, and this is a matinee day. "Come, we must return." And he pulled me all the way through the double doors of the pass door, through the stage door, onto the street, shoved me like this, and closed the door, and it locks. And so I'm standing on the street in daylight, and the people are walking past going, "And I've got this huge big wig in this white silk dress." And I'm like, "Let me in, I've got a quick change."
I'm back on in
and he's
16 seconds.
He's standing like this.
Did you make it?
I did make it, yeah. I was like, if I'm not on stage in time,
you're fired.
Yeah.
And did you get him back?
Probably. I think I remember. I'm not sure if it was immediate, but one of the things that I said to him that really tripped him up was we were during the track, the Phantom of the Opera, there's a lot of up and down stairs and we were getting into the gondola and I'm fixing myself and he's getting his stick and we're ready and the stage crew are all going, like this, ready to go. And I turn around, knowing that the music of the night was coming up, because we go on and it goes straight in. And we talked about missing words and forgetting the rhythm of stuff. And I turned around and I said, how do you remember your words to the music of the night? And he went like this, and he went on stage, and he literally the whole way through the show was shaking, because the whole way through that song, because he was just like, if you start overthinking, you're gone, you're a goner. And I was like, you don't know what the next line is, do you?
I'm not going to help you. Oh man, that is the worst.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When you step on stage and go, I don't know what my first line is.
It's terrifying.
It's the worst feeling.
Especially with what you said about like consistency. When you're doing a show for that long, people would think it would be at the beginning that you forget your words, but it isn't. It's when you're like 9 months in. Mm-hmm. And when you've done something so many times and there's no new stimulus for your brain in any way, that's when it just goes, what am I going to have for dinner? And you're like, nope.
Then suddenly like, where am I? Yeah.
Then you have that, like, I've never thought this. Well, I've been in this position looking at this thing before. And then you're like, oh my God, have you ever forgotten your words?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, not that many times, but when I was doing Cats, I went through a phase, and that is it's an exhausting show. It's such a difficult show. It's brilliant for many reasons, but it's really, really tiring. So the part that I played, Jelly Lorem, she stands up and sings. It's right at the start of the second act, and all of the cast are on stage, and you bring Gus out and you put him down, and then she sings a story about this character and encourages him to get up and tell his tale. So there's a big chunk where it's just me standing with everyone watching. And there was I went through a phase where I was just like, I have and it's rhyming, it's all rhyming couplets, because obviously it's T.S. Eliot. And I'm like, I have no idea what the next line is. And I would just be making stuff up. But it's terrifying, because some people, they're all laughing, going, you can hear people kind of sniggering, and the chap that I was playing Gus with was sort of looking at me, and at one point it happened a couple of times, so he could see that something was starting to get into my head, and he would sort of help me with a word or whatever if I knew I'd forgotten what the start of the next phrase is, and it became a thing where I had to. You mentioned earlier like about affirmations. I went through a phase where I had to stand at the side before I went on, going, you know this. You're going to be fine. You know this, because as soon as you start overthinking it, you think, I'm never going to get this right. And it's terrifying when you've got a good chunk of time where no one can help you.
Yeah.
I
know, like, well, you have your experience with this probably too, but like when it's not even necessarily sometimes words, but when something goes wrong and then it gets in your head and it's not rational or logical, it's hard to explain, but then as soon as it's happened once, then the next time you're there, it's like it's suddenly now a problem. You're like, you could have not forgotten your words in that part for 6 months, and then suddenly every single show, you're like, even if you're after that show, you go home and you look at the words and you go, what the hell has happened? And then you get there again and you're like, I got nothing.
It's like a trigger in the brain. As soon as it happens once, it's going to keep happening.
Yeah.
So you have to just quiet the voices,
I feel like that with like vocal cracking and stuff too, right? When you're like, but like if you crack once in a particularly exposing moment, then when you know that's coming up, and that obviously adds tension, and then you're more likely to crack again next time, which reinforces it, and then you're like, what do I do? Which I know you're laughing, but
you've personally seen my journey, my mental journey through this.
This happened. Do you want to tell Celia?
We were doing Joseph. I was playing Simeon, and at one point all the boys dropped out, and I was just hitting an A on my own. And one day I went, laughed, everyone laughed, but then it tortured me for weeks. And Steffan and I were in a dressing room together, just us, and he would see me like panicking in the interval because I knew it was coming up.
But this thing had been clean as day, every single show, every single rehearsal, without any effort from him up until that point. And actually, I wasn't just referring to that moment.
That is the moment that just
it's happened to me
in my head
too so many times in that way. I guess with a part like Christine, where everybody's like, we're coming to listen to this lady sing, right? Like, which is part of why you go to watch Phantom. Did you feel that pressure to go, this has to be perfect every night?
I don't remember feeling pressure. I just remember feeling like, bring it.
Yeah.
Because I was so confident, and still am very confident with my soprano. So it was like a really great challenge. There were moments where like Andrew Lloyd Webber would come and watch, or Cameron would come in, and those days were particularly difficult because they would both have different conflicting notes. They would always come back and give notes, but they were always conflicting because I think they like to do that on purpose. So you'd find yourself being a bit of a pawn. And that was hard. So that would bring like an element of sort of nerves. You'd be like, oh man, they're watching. And especially Andrew, obviously it's he's written it. So you want to be completely on the note, where sometimes as a soprano, when you're hitting like a high note, it can sound under. And then the vibrato comes in and it lifts it. So you start on the note. So that's a bit of a weird thing, being told you sound a bit flat, so you've got to hit the note and then the vibrato takes it over, and it's always better to sound slightly sharp, which is a kind of weird thing because it goes against what your body's telling you to do. But
your sense of pitch. I love that, because that is such a common story with Andrew and Cameron, like having opposing notes, first of all, but also being rather large personalities in their and at that time, let's say, in the way that notes were delivered to the company-wide and stuff. They're famed for, one more than the other, famed for sort of being rather savage with some of the stuff. In fact, there's footage of it. I don't know if you've seen.
Yes, I know the footage you're referring to. Yeah,
it's amazing. He he's behaving in a way that I'm sure he's not happy with now. If you haven't seen it, I'll send it to you afterwards, because it's fantastic. But now I think, because like when you do a show, if you've seen footage of somebody behaving like that, like when he comes into rehearsal, you're like, oh God, is he gonna go nuts? Or and obviously you might not know him or any of that stuff, but it's scary. I love that you didn't feel that pressure. That's kind of glorious that way.
Yeah,
you're like, no pressure.
I love that. Just a great thing to take away of backing yourself. Like if you trust in your talent, you trust in the skill that you've got, and not being intimidated by a role or by anything like that. That's so cool.
Bring it on. And then obviously Love Never Dies.
Yes. Which was such a gift, because you play a role like Christine and then suddenly you're in that box. You're like, oh, I'm looking for more of an Elphaba, not a Christine. And so it's very difficult to shake, and it opened many, many doors for me, but it's also has put me in very firmly into a box. So I went through, I did lots of lovely, lovely work in between Phantom and Love Never Dies. But then when Love Never Dies came along, I suddenly felt like I was home again. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was a really strange feeling, because I'd been in Phantom for so long and done so much work on her that when I was asked to come back and do Love Never Dies, it just worked. It slipped straight in. But because there was a big gap of time, there was many years, Love Never Dies is set 10 years later. So I was bringing my own maturity to the role, and that was great. Because as an actress, as a soprano, getting older, it's challenging finding roles for older women. And so it just sort of came at the right time. So I could come back with all of the knowledge that I had from my previous experiences in Phantom, but being older myself.
Like, gosh, and there's some hard singing in that as well.
Yeah.
That's not...
Well, the title song is at like 10:30 at night or something. So I'd stay in bed till like midday, and I'd have people going, why, get up, why? And I'm like, hang on a minute, my day doesn't start till like 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I have to peak at exactly the right moment.
Yeah.
You saying you don't enjoy magic tricks? There was a bunch of illusion stuff in that show, wasn't there?
There was a lot of fun stuff. But what I think I enjoy more about that is when you can see this person pulling this string.
Yes, yeah. When you're in on it, I think.
There was a really funny moment with Ramin when, and it was a really pivotal moment in the second act when he comes up from in the middle of nowhere. He just comes up from underneath the stage and he appears, but then he's supposed to go out the door. But the actor before had gone out in a rage and slammed the door so hard that he couldn't get the door open, and so he'd sung this huge big "sing for me" moment, and then went to open the door and couldn't, and he was like, and then I had to just walk off stage, and we were like, some phantom, you can appear and you can't even get the door open.
Come off the door off.
And so and I could hear him laughing in the wings, and I had to I'm on stage on my own, and it's the moment that leads into the Love Never Dies song, and I thought I was going to be sick. I was laughing internally so hard, but and I had to just really get it together, you know.
That's the tricky bit about when the show is really positive and light. You can sort of get away with a little bit more of some of the some of those things creeping over. But with shows like Les Mis and Phantom or Love Never Dies, when you're like, oh, this is meant to be dark and terrifying. If I crack at any point, like with laughter, I mean, you're like, that is going to be a problem.
People are going to notice.
Yeah, it's so much harder because I think when it's a bit like being in church.
Yeah, you have to be serious.
You've got to be serious, and you get the giggles for no reason, and it's so painful.
Things are far funnier.
It's so hard to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like you get that question quite a lot when you're teaching. You're like, have you ever like corpsed on stage? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, was it so funny? I'm like, no. No, at the time, yes. But
it's like when you're retelling the story, you know.
Yeah.
And I went on stage and I was wearing the wrong hat.
Yeah. And I didn't notice. And everyone just cried. And you're like, it's not that funny though, is it? The worst one for me was during a show and nothing had changed. There was no stimulus for this. The guy just walked on and we had a patter scene that was about 6 pages long of just patter. And he looked at me and the way he looked at me in that moment, he just looked a little bit wilder than usual. And I was like, what the hell is going on? He obviously saw my response, found that really funny, and we were in trouble. And like the entire patch scene, which was meant to be funny, was no longer funny because we were like laughing our heads off. With that in mind, then, what funny stuff has happened on stage?
Oh, there's just I can't. I don't know where to start. So many. The funniest things happen when things go wrong. So not like, some people like to be playful and deliberately set you up and try and make you laugh, which I don't necessarily agree with. It's like sometimes it's funny, but a lot of the time it's like,
we got a job to do.
Yeah, come on. But when things go wrong, you can't help but laugh. Like that door getting stuck was one of the funniest things that's ever happened. John Owen Jones also fell over on stage, which I actually couldn't get myself together. I was crying with laughter, and he got really annoyed with me because it wasn't really that funny, but it was to see someone of his stature slip and fall. I couldn't, and I think people falling over is one of the funniest things.
As long as they're all right, it's funny.
The second they're all right, you're like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, he didn't hurt himself. He was just a bit embarrassed, which I find even funnier.
The embarrassment as well. Oh, I've stacked it on a stage.
I've stacked it many times
so
on the stage.
More times than I can count.
I feel like. Also, do you find that if you're playing like the ingenue and you fall over, do you get like the audience like, are they like concerned?
Yeah. Yeah, I fell over. I've definitely fallen over in every job that I've done at some stage. But I had a tremendous fall in Phantom when he's firing this fire stick. So you've got this huge big cape on after wishing you were somehow here again. And a lot of that job was sort of costume choreography. You'd have to make sure that the layers of skirt and everything weren't underneath your feet, because otherwise you'd walk up the cape and you're on the ground. And that's that. So that's what happened. I sort of turned too quickly and I tripped and I was flat on my face like this, with this cape over me. And I was about 2 feet from the wings and he's firing these fireballs at me.
Oh, gosh.
And I had to look up and the stage crew were in the wings and they didn't know what to do. And I had to say, pull me off the stage. And literally a pair of hands came out and went, pulled me.
That's superb.
I love that. And they're like, wait, was that a Phantom? No, that's the Phantom. Who's pulled her off the stage?
Just random pair of arms.
Technically a stage debut for that person.
Nice.
Don't they get paid if they go on stage?
$12.50 push and pull.
Yeah, I feel like, I was going to say, I think they still get paid if they have to actually be visible on stage.
Yeah.
So payment for that person at a point. So they were hoping you'd fall over again.
I'm pretty sure I bought that person a pint.
£12.50 and a pint.
Oh my God, a bargain. What a day.
Also, then that's the tricky thing. It looks like it's so close, but to drag you off stage from there is actually, 6-7 feet of brawling.
Yeah, it was a funny moment. We couldn't quite get that together.
And the very rapid recovery that needs to happen afterwards. You've done, again, by the way, there will have been an intro at the beginning of this in which we tell everybody all the wonderful things that you've done and gone through.
Yep.
But you're also, you won an award for Best Leading Actress. Is that?
Yes, that's right.
I mean, that's just a casual award, right? What's that? What's on stage?
Broadway World.
I mean, just a little,
Just Broadway world.
lovely accolade.
Oh, it was joyous. That was for Titanic.
Right.
So I was in the original concept cast of Titanic at the Southwark Playhouse, and it was one of those really it was synergy. It was just magical. This incredible group of people came together, and we created this thing under the direction of the brilliant Tom Sutherland. And it was one of those things where for 4 weeks we were in a rehearsal space and no one knew what was going on. And we were all like, what's happening? But we all went, listen, it's such a great piece. We all came at it because we wanted to sing the music. We wanted to be in this production. We weren't doing it for the money. We were doing it for the love. And we all just had the most extraordinary time. And it became this amazing production that is still going.
Yeah.
That has just, it's been all over the world now. And I went to Toronto with it and spent 8 weeks doing that there. It was just extraordinary. But then, so we just loved it. We were having such a great time. So then to be nominated for that and an Offie as well, I got the Offie for that too. It was just the icing on the cake.
What a great show.
Yeah.
And amazing music in that as well.
Yeah.
Another big sing.
It was a huge sing for everyone.
Everyone, I don't think people quite expect it to be as big a sing as it is as that actually is. And also, that seems to go to Toronto all the time. They love it over there.
Yeah, we had a great time over there. They really looked after us. It was lovely.
Maybe that's why. Yeah. I want to go now. Yeah. So we'll go back.
Toronto.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Is there anything about the industry or fitness or wellness or anything at all that you'd like to see get in the bin?
Get in the bin.
Yeah, get in the bin.
Oh,
I
definitely think the sort of the idea that you have to conform to a certain look or a certain size to be in the spotlight, in even not just musicals, but in life in general. But as an actress, I definitely felt the pressure when I was younger to be pretty, to be thin, to look good, to present your best self, and and that's something that I would definitely put them in, because we know that we all come in different shapes and sizes. And I think ageism in the industry is something that has become way more important to me as I've become older. That sort of idea that you can't play a role because you're not 21. Even though in reality, if the story was accurate, she would be the age that I am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they want, there are certain producers that want the next new best thing, the new shiny thing. So instead of casting an actress that is the age appropriate, they'll go for someone that's much younger.
Yeah, that's a huge issue, isn't it? Especially and more so for women in my perception, that especially all the classic musicals, there tends to be like young ingenue, when you're hitting those archetypes, and they seem to be tougher for women to crack. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like to have young ingenue, and then there's like an older lady that it tends to fit into the sort of like grandmother archetype, and then you're like, well, where's the stuff in the middle?
Between? Yeah, I think that was one of the issues that I had with Les Mis. You're either the young sparkly thing, or you're the old hag.
Yeah.
It's very much the story's told very much from the male perspective, and without realizing it, as a young woman, I had a real problem with that. I was like, exactly that. Where are the women? Like, where are the actual real stories? Like the in between ages. The main bulk of your life.
Majority.
Like, where is it? And I love that you mentioned Les Mis, because that's actually a great example. But also when you start actually racking up through all the classic shows like that, it tends to come up over and over again. You're like, what if you're casting all your Rodgers and Hammerstein stuff as a 20-year-old? You're like, there's no roles. And also that used to be obviously that you'd cast opera singers in that when it came out or whatever, and they were almost never 20. You're like, that's not the age they were meant to be. But,
and a lot of the roles require an emotional, maturity that you just don't have when you're in your 20s. So the fact that when I did West Side Story and I did Les Mis and then went back to West Side, I remember, and the same with Phantom. I went into Phantom and I came away and went back. Each time I'd go back to the role, I brought new stuff because I'd aged and I'd learned, and I would have different sort of dynamic approach to her. So, definitely getting older is so much more valuable than it's given.
I wonder if part of it is money.
What?
The cynicism coming through here from me now is that when people have just graduated, they're cheaper.
Yeah.
And a producer's going, well, let's get somebody who'll do it for the minimum.
I mean, you're not wrong.
We We won't mention them, but it's definitely happening. Do you have any advice to people who might be entering the industry now?
I would just say, you just got to keep going, practicing. It's like, somebody once said, when you're not practicing, someone else is. And so you've got to just keep at it. If it's something that you really want to do, you've just got to research it. I find it's amazing to me when I go in and I meet students and they haven't researched who's in the room. They don't know who the teachers are, they've been given a topic or a genre and they haven't researched it because we didn't have the internet. When I was a teenager, we didn't have those resources. So coming into the West End and going to Dress Circle, which was a shop that had musical theatre information, was like the only thing that we could do other than talking to other people and having a community. But you can find out anything now online,
in 1 minute,
in a second. And so I think that research is also very, very important. Like the more information you have, the better. Because I've been caught out in moments where I've gone in and not known who's in the room, or not known that he wrote the song that I'm about to sing.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. That's always really good to know.
And they're like, what did you think of it? Oh no, who wrote this?
Oh, that was terrible.
It's great. I've realised that we completely forgot to ask you to tell us a lie.
Yeah.
So forgive me on that point, as I
there was no lie.
Entirely forgot.
There we go.
It was all lies.
It's all lies.
It was all lies.
This
was true. Whoa. I'm not even Celia Grant. Mask comes off. I'm like, oh my God.
Incredible.
Like any Mission Impossible film.
Yeah.
You ever seen one of those?
Mission Impossible? Yeah.
When they just have those masks that they peel off their face and it's a different person. They haven't conceptualized that actually that would require you to change skull and skeleton as well.
Imagine that was a thing.
Like if I just put a piece of skin on my face that was yours, I'm not going to look like you.
Go full face off.
There was weird moments in Phantom when he pulls the this big sheet off, and there's a mirror, and she's supposed to be faced with herself, and there's a dummy. Well, there's a lady in there with a mask of my face, and I had to have my face molded, so it was my face. But I remember this is kind of weird. So, but then in order for the features to stand out, in the back row of the gods or whatever, they'd put loads and loads of makeup on it. So they'd loads and loads of black lines around the eyes and these weird lips. And so every time they'd pull the thing off, I'd be like, oh, God, is that what I look like?
What we say about affirmations? God, that's what I'm every day.
Brilliant. Let's play a game. We're going to play a game of this or that. So it's going to be a 1 minute lightning round, a la Friends. Steffan will give you two options. You've got to pick one. And we'll go through it as quick as we can. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Eggs or bacon?
Eggs.
White bread or brown bread?
Brown bread.
The US Office or Friends?
US.
Cardio or resistance training?
Resistance.
McDonald's or Burger King?
McDonald's.
Singing or acting?
Singing.
Raoul or Phantom?
Both.
Yoga or Pilates?
Yoga.
Family Guy or Love Island?
Love Island.
Domino's Pizza or Papa John's?
Domino's.
Sport or dance?
Dance.
Alcohol or chocolate?
Alcohol.
Matching socks or mismatching socks?
Mismatching.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Cosette or Maria?
Both.
Game of Thrones or Glee?
Game of Thrones.
Books or Kindle?
Books.
Clean shaven or beard?
Beard.
Personal chef or personal stylist?
Stylist.
Opening night or press night?
Opening night.
Sexy or smart?
Both.
Shower or bath?
Shower.
Les Mis or Love Never Dies?
Love Never Dies.
Dogs or babies?
Dogs.
Snakes or badgers?
Snakes.
Theme park or water park?
Theme park.
Running or walking?
Running.
Director or choreographer?
Director.
Bobby or Steffan?
Both.
That was 50 seconds.
Oh, whoa! That's
50's rapid.
one of the quickest we've
One
had.
of the quickest.
That's very
Well
impressive.
played.
I thought I was delivering them slowly, so I was like, I need to speed this up. I was like,
I was criticising you in my head.
It's always the way.
Yeah.
You maybe are the person who's said both the most times as
Yes.
Oh, really?
well. Many boths in there.
Very
you didn't want to
diplomatic.
decide between Raoul and the Phantom.
It's a tough one. It's
Fair.
a tough question.
That's fair, yeah.
If it was just Phantom and Love Never Dies had never happened, I would be choosing the Phantom. But because of Raoul's journey and Love Never Dies.
I think if we had more time in that lightning round, I would say it would depend on who's playing.
That is a factual good point.
Yeah.
Right, Dreamcast. No, that's how we get cancelled.
Yes.
So, on that note, I think that's kind of everything. So, just to say thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
It has been a pleasure. Yes, and thank you at home or wherever you might be for listening.
Yeah, and if you've enjoyed this episode, click those like and subscribe buttons. Find us on Instagram at Fit to Perform West End. As always, if you've got any questions you want answered, slip slide into those DMs. I'll be in there wearing a mask of Celia's face.
Oh, dear God. Right, thanks again for listening. And if you like what we've
That
heard...
went weird. I wasn't expecting to say that.
We have been Fit to Talk with our wonderful guest, Celia Graham, and your hosts, me, Steffan.
And me, Bobby. And if you didn't like it, we've been Joe Wicks. Peace out.